In the history of WWE, there have been many icons and legends whose names echo through the corridors of time. However, there has perhaps never been anyone as cunning and as vicious as Randall Keith Orton. For over 2 decades, Randy Orton has dominated the square circle like few others. Known by many monikers, the Legend Killer, the Viper, the Apex Predator, this third-generation superstar has etched his name into WWE history. Orton's journey is a roller coaster of triumphs, devious betrayals, and epic showdowns. As both a hero and a villain, his mastery of the RKO finisher has left the WWE Universe awestruck. Join us today as we relive some of the moments that solidified Randy Orton's legendary status in the WWE. After his time in Ohio Valley Wrestling, part of the legendary class of 2002, alongside Brock Lesnar, Dave Bautista, and the man who he would one day forge a legendary rivalry with, John Cena, Orton would make his official main roster debut on SmackDown April 25, 2002, where he would defeat Hardcore Holly. It wasn't long before Randy was beginning to make a name for himself, getting himself traded to the flagship brand Raw, but was unfortunately sidelined due to a shoulder injury just weeks after his Raw debut. The injury turned into a blessing in disguise, as Orton re-emerged on WWE's programming in short vignettes called RNN, the Randy News Network. In this weekly report, Randy would give updates regarding his recovery, but Orton would use his news network to interrupt segments of other wrestlers. Each week, Orton would become slightly more arrogant, cocky, and overconfident. Without even being live in the arena, Orton brilliantly turned from a very by-the-book rookie babyface to an arrogant heel that people couldn't wait to see back in the ring. Overall, the RNN segments were a great opportunity for Randy to develop his promo skills and really spoke volumes to how much trust the WWE had in the young star. It's likely that without RNN, Orton may have been left to the wayside, but thankfully, it was the genesis of one of the greatest gimmicks in wrestling history. Perhaps the most pivotal moment in young Randy Orton's journey unfolded in 2003 when he joined Triple H, Ric Flair, and Batista in the legendary faction Evolution. The group made their thunderous debut on Raw February 3, 2003 with a ruthless assault on Tommy Dreamer, setting the tone for their dominant run throughout the Ruthless Aggression era. Triple H, the mastermind behind Evolution, handpicked Orton, citing his raw genetic talent. Under the Evolution banner, Orton would capture his first championship gold when he defeated Rob Van Dam for the Intercontinental Championship at Armageddon 2003, a night which would see Evolution hold all the men's championships on Raw. But this was just the beginning of Randy Orton's story with Evolution. With Evolution at the height of its dominance, Orton began proclaiming himself the Legend Killer, with his gimmick becoming that of a young upstart who was so talented that he touted himself as the future of wrestling. He embarked on numerous feuds with older, well-respected names in the wrestling world, and gained infamy for blatantly disrespecting and brutalizing them. Over the years, with the help of his iconic finisher, the RKO, Randy would take out the likes of Hulk Hogan, Shawn Michaels, Sergeant Slaughter, Roddy Piper, Dusty Rhodes, which made one of my buddies cry, and countless more. In an early encounter, Orton collided with the hardcore legend Mick Foley. This feud unveiled a newfound level of ferocity in Orton. Following heated confrontations on Raw, Foley issued a compelling challenge, a no-holds-barred match at Backlash 2004. A truly brutal collision that showed Orton's ability to take even the most hardcore of spots and the most brutal bumps imaginable, with Orton ultimately prevailing. Later, Orton would briefly revive the Legend Killer gimmick in 2020, attacking and feuding with legends such as Edge, Christian, Shawn Michaels, Ric Flair, and The Big Show, becoming more unhinged throughout the run, eventually setting his sights on the WWE Championship. He would feud with then WWE Champion Drew McIntyre for much of the remainder of 2020, eventually capturing his 14th World Championship in a Hell in a Cell match. 18 years prior to his most recent world title run, Randy Orton secured his first shot at the World Heavyweight Championship by triumphing in a grueling 20-man battle royale on Raw July 2004. In Toronto, amidst a technical and hard-hitting clash. Orton and Chris Benoit engaged in a riveting bout, culminating Orton's perfectly executed RKO for a stunning upset win. Overwhelmed with emotion, Orton, in a state of shock and amazement, proudly raised the title. However, arguably the biggest moment in Randy Orton's storied career is rarely revisited or replayed today by the WWE, due to the horrible tragedy in 2007 surrounding his opponent, Chris Benoit. With the World Heavyweight Championship in his hands, it seemed as if Randy Orton was on top of the world. To celebrate, the benevolent leader of Evolution decided to throw Randy Orton a little championship celebration on Raw, after he successfully retained against Benoit in a rematch. 24 hours blindsided as Batista dropped him from his shoulders, and an all-out 3-on-1 beatdown ensued. Triple H's obsession with the world title wouldn't allow the young Orton to remain in Evolution as the champ, not even for a single day. Orton was quick to seek revenge for this betrayal, erupting into an epic feud with his former teammates for the remainder of 2004. Despite losing the title to Triple H during this period thanks to interference from Evolution, Orton would take every opportunity to humiliate and brutalize his former stablemates, including launching out of a giant cake to strike Triple H during his title celebration. This proved to be a key moment for Orton, as it allowed Orton to separate himself from the powerful faction that was Evolution and embark on a journey all of his own. With the WWE set on having Triple H and Batista feud for the World Heavyweight Championship in 2005, Orton was set on another course. Orton set out to achieve something that his former mentor couldn't even lay claim to: defeating The Undertaker at WrestleMania. The Legend Killer would attempt to truly cement himself as a legend by, in the words of superstar Billy Graham, go where no wrestler had gone before. The Undertaker was 12-0 at WrestleMania at this point, and on March 7, 2005, Orton would officially challenge the Dead Man to a match at WrestleMania 21. In the build, Orton would turn heel. He spent much of the month of March taunting and launching sneak attacks on the Dead Man. The match, similar to other matches in the past, was billed Legend Killer versus The Legend. The match saw several near falls. One particular spot saw Orton reverse a chokeslam with an RKO. It was beginning to look as if Orton was going to pull off the upset, when Orton attempted a tombstone piledriver, The Undertaker's own finisher. This hubris would be his undoing, as the Phenom would ultimately counter it into his own tombstone, winning the match and continuing on with a 13-0 record. Despite the outcome, Orton proved that not only could he hang with one of the best in the history of the business, but had a legitimate shot at ending The Undertaker. As it's told, the WWE offered Orton to end the streak, but he refused out of respect for The Undertaker and because he thought he wasn't the right person to break it. Randy Orton was able to avenge his WrestleMania 21 loss to The Undertaker at SummerSlam with some help from his father, Cowboy Bob Orton, and finally added the Dead Man to the Legend Killers list. This was one of Orton's biggest wins in his young career, and his near 9-month feud with The Undertaker helped Orton truly cement himself as a top star in the WWE. Though Randy Orton often prefers to go it alone, ever since the betrayal of Evolution, one of his more notable collaborations was with the Rated-R superstar Edge, forming the tag team Rated-RKO. The partnership was initiated when Edge proposed that Orton join forces against DX on the October 9, 2006 episode of Raw, capitalizing on Orton's previous conflicts with Triple H. With Edge embroiled in a feud of his own with Shawn Michaels at the time, the alliance between Orton and Edge fell seamlessly into place. Rated-RKO achieved a significant triumph at the 2006 Cyber Sunday event in a straight-up tag team match against DX with special guest referee Eric Bischoff. Rated-RKO emerged victorious. The victory was the first time DX was defeated after reuniting and symbolized the passing of the torch. Rated-RKO asserted their dominance over one of the most legendary tag teams of all time. Rated-RKO would later even go on to win tag titles, holding them for a total of 77 days, until dropping them to the dysfunctional pairing of Shawn Michaels and John Cena. Orton and Edge would never truly reunite Rated-RKO, but would clash in a heated feud in 2020. A feud that gave the wrestling world the so-called greatest wrestling match ever at Backlash of that year. Whether it lived up to the tagline is certainly up for debate. Every era has its defining rivalry, and it's undeniable that the feud between Randy Orton and John Cena was the biggest attraction during the early days of the so-called PG era. The feud between John Cena and Randy Orton was a long rivalry that encompassed countless WWE pay-per-view main events from 2007 to 2014. In fact, it was such a money feud that the two clashed 15 times in 15 title matches before 2011. Many of these matches were on the top of the card and during pay-per-views. It makes sense though. They're both huge stars, but for many fans, it made the main event scene feel a bit boring and a bit repetitive. That being said, the rivalry truly did feature some awesome matches and moments. Their first big singles match at SummerSlam 2007 was a very solid match that saw Big Match John prevail, as he usually did during this time. This ignited the Viper's rage as he fully embraced his heel side, even punting John Cena's father for good measure. The hot start to the feud unfortunately hit a roadblock, as Cena was forced to vacate the title due to a shoulder injury. With Cena out of the picture for the time being, Orton filled in as the top guy, feuding with the likes of Chris Jericho and Shawn Michaels while Cena was on the shelf. The rivalry would reignite when Cena returned at the Royal Rumble in 2008, winning the event and a shot at Orton's title. This would eventually lead to a triple threat match between Orton, Cena, and Triple H at WrestleMania 24, where Orton would only barely escape with the title. Another notable match during this feud saw the two square off in a 60-minute Iron Man match at Bragging Rights in 2009. Their greatest match, however, is arguably their I Quit match at Breaking Point 2009, which turned out to be a surprisingly brutal bout, especially for the PG era. Orton handcuffed Cena and taunted him, throwing water in his face. But Cena was eventually able to break free from the handcuffs, tie up Orton with the handcuffs while simultaneously applying his STFU submission hold. Unable to break free from the situation, Orton was forced to quit. The final chapter of their rivalry came in late 2013, as Orton, who was a member of the villainous Authority faction, captured the WWE Championship from fan favorite Daniel Bryan. In December, Cena suggested that there should be only one world champion in the WWE. The leader of the Authority, Triple H, agreed and arranged for a championship unification at the TLC pay-per-view. Neither of them are well known for being involved in TLC matches, but they showed their ability to adapt in this entertaining encounter. Ultimately was Orton who ended the night as the unified champion after he handcuffed Cena to the bottom turnbuckle. There are those handcuffs again. Orton then pulled Cena off the ladder, through a table, allowing for a comfortable victory for Orton. Orton and Cena faced each other again for the unified title at Royal Rumble the following month, in a match Orton won after Cena was distracted by the Wyatt family. Later that year, Cena and Orton faced off in a Hell in a Cell, where Cena would defeat Orton, marking their 10th and final one-on-one match on pay-per-view, ending their historic rivalry. Despite some believing the rivalry was drawn out and repetitive, it remains a feud that defined the PG era and is often the earliest remembered feud for younger wrestling fans. Randy Orton has been part of various factions throughout his career, such as Evolution, the Authority, and even the Wyatt family for a time, but Legacy stands out as the group he personally established, showcasing yet another astute move for his character by selecting two promising young wrestlers to carry out his orders. Orton demonstrated a strategic approach that made perfect sense. The two other members of Legacy were Ted DiBiase Jr., son of Ted DiBiase, and Cody Rhodes, son of Dusty Rhodes, both of whom were successful wrestlers, just as Orton's was Cowboy Bob Orton. This arrangement alleviated the pressure on Orton during his matches, knowing he had a reliable backup plan. With DiBiase and Rhodes handling much of the groundwork, Orton's decision proved to be a shrewd move, contributing to one of the most successful phases of his career. However, never turn your back on a Viper, as Orton ultimately betrayed both men. In January 2009, Randy Orton made the bold move that many only dream of. He took out his boss, Vince McMahon, on an episode of Raw, preventing McMahon from firing him. Weeks later, Orton secured himself a Royal Rumble victory with the critical assistance from his teammates in Legacy, ultimately eliminating his old adversary Triple H, who was the last man in the ring with him, and is also Vince McMahon's son-in-law. On the subsequent Raw episode, Orton attributed his actions against McMahon to intermittent explosive disorder, a behavioral disorder characterized by explosive outbursts of anger or violence, claiming he wasn't accountable for assaulting Mr. McMahon. He alleged that WWE was aware of his condition, but took no action, threatening legal action and a breach of contract suit if fired. Orton stated that he was legally entitled to compete at WrestleMania for the title because he won the Royal Rumble. Orton ultimately avoided termination when daughter of Vince McMahon, Stephanie McMahon, decided against it, revealing she had bigger plans for him. Her brother, Shane McMahon, then returned to Raw. sparking a no-holds-barred match at No Way Out, which Orton won in his typical brutal fashion. In a follow-up unsanctioned match against Shane on Raw, Orton forced a no contest by incapacitating him with a punt to the head. Stephanie then ran out to the ring to tend to her brother, but Orton, never one to let gender get in the way of a good sneak attack, hit Stephanie with the RKO. This prompted the ire of the then WWE Champion Triple H, who claimed that Orton crossed the line when attacking Stephanie, his real-life wife. Later, Orton claimed that everything he had done was part of a plan to get revenge on Triple H after he kicked him out of Evolution back in 2004. According to Orton, Triple H had ruined his life, so Orton was going to do the same thing and take everything that Triple H cared about away from him, including his family, his loved ones, and his precious WWE title. This led to an absolutely wild feud and build to WrestleMania, where the two men constantly tormented each other inside and outside of the ring. Perhaps the most vile moment was in a segment on Raw, where Orton kissed an unconscious Stephanie McMahon in the middle of the ring while Triple H was handcuffed, forced to watch his wife violated. Triple H sought revenge for this vile act by showing up at Orton's home and breaking in with a sledgehammer. A massive brawl erupted as Orton's wife screamed in the background. The game ultimately got the upper hand and threw Orton through the window, where the brawl then continued in the front lawn until local police arrived at the scene and arrested Triple H for home invasion. The build to the match was one of the best WWE has seen in years. Despite this, their eventual match at WrestleMania 25 didn't fully live up to the absolute insane build. Perhaps this was due to the fact that they had to follow arguably the greatest wrestling match ever between Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker. The match also really could have used a stipulation, such as no holds barred, really to bring home the feud with a violent war deserving of the chaotic build.
Rather, they went with the bizarre stipulation that if Triple H was counted out or disqualified, he would lose the WWE Championship.
In the end, Triple H would defeat Orton and retain his title at the Showcase of the Immortals. A month later, the feud would come to an end at Backlash, with Randy Orton finally dethroning Triple H for the WWE Championship, a payoff not truly worthy of the epic build. The saga between Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton, though not hailed in the brightest of light by many, including Orton himself, left an indelible mark for its unique twist and unfortunate downfall. Initiated in 2016, the duo's first encounter saw Orton joining forces with Wyatt's cult-like family in an unexpected alliance. The story, while initially captivating, took a bizarre turn at WrestleMania 33, marred by peculiar visuals on the ring and a less than thrilling outcome. The feud even took an absolutely bonkers turn when Randy Orton burned down the Wyatt's compound. Their paths diverged until 2020, when Wyatt's new Fiend character targeted Orton once again, delving into their history. Despite a promising start, the feud fell into the same pitfalls of overproduced magical elements, from teleportation to fireballs, culminating in another WrestleMania clash with a familiar outcome. Both chapters, distinct in content, suffer from WWE's penchant for extravagant theatrics, diverging from the core of professional wrestling. The feuds, though they had extended and evolving elements, failed to serve the late Wyatt's character, with Orton emerging victorious at pivotal moments, leaving fans questioning the creative's decisions. The repetitive missteps marked by strange occurrences and questionable victories ultimately tainted what could have been a compelling narrative between these two very talented performers. Sadly, we will never see a third chapter of this story, as Wyndham Rotunda tragically passed away in August 2023. As seen, Randy Orton is largely known for his selfish nature and sadistic tendencies. However, in 2021, a surprising twist in his career occurred when he teamed up with Matt Riddle, the 420-loving bro, forming the dynamic duo known as RK Bro. This unexpected partnership, proposed by Riddle on the April 19, 2021 episode of Raw, injected new life into the career of Orton, highlighting the lighter side of the Apex Predator. Initially hesitant about the idea, Orton and Riddle went on to create some memorable moments during their run. Despite their vastly different personalities, the duo resonated with the WWE Universe. Orton, who's typically stoic, found himself smiling and engaging in humorous segments involving parties, scooters, and even a camel, all with the constant suspense of RKO potentially RKOing his partner, added to the intriguing dynamic. Acknowledging the uniqueness of their collaboration, Orton expressed enjoyment of working with Riddle, highlighting the latter's serious competitive spirit. Despite the occasional RKO interruption, Orton never sought to break away from the team. RK-Bro engaged in classic tag team battles against formidable opponents like the Hurt Business, the Usos, AJ Styles and Omos, the New Day, and more. The duo would capture the tag team titles twice during their run, with their second title run ending at the hands of the rising Bloodline faction. The unexpected union proved to be a refreshing chapter in Orton's extensive WWE career. Unfortunately though for some, it's extremely unlikely that we will ever see an RK-Bro reunion, as during Randy's injury hiatus in September 2023, Riddle was released from WWE for his less than appropriate behavior at JFK Airport. After an 18-month absence, it was announced on Raw, November 20th, 2023, that Randy Orton would make his comeback at Survivor Series War Games on November 25th. He joined the team of his former legacy ally, Cody Rhodes, in a War Games match against the Judgment Day. In a thrilling turn of events, Orton was the last entrant into the match and played an essential role as his team emerged victorious over the Judgment Day, with a particularly awesome spot being when Sami Zayn and Seth Rollins cornered JD McDonough, tossing him from the top of the cage into a perfectly timed RKO. Orton would then make his return to Raw 2 nights later, where he informed Mommy that Daddy was back before brutalizing her precious Dom later in the night. The following episode of SmackDown, it was disclosed that Orton was a free agent. A contract signing took place to determine which brand Orton would align with, Raw or SmackDown. Following an attack by the Bloodline members, Orton officially signed with SmackDown, vowing revenge for putting him on the shelf for over a year. It's unclear where Orton's story will take him next, but what's for sure is that Orton's longevity in the WWE is a testament to his skills, adaptability, and consistency. He has remained relevant across different eras, successfully transitioning between face and heel roles, evolving as a performer. From the brash young talent to the calculated apex predator, leaving fans on the edge of their seat, just waiting for the next RKO.